described a queer surgeon boasting on video about the experimental, irreversible, and life-altering invasive procedures he conducts on children was among the many outrages exposed at the House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing today. Now, Democrats at the hearing claimed that parental concerns about these surgeries are mere right-wing talking points. But the powerful testimony from witnesses who have undergone such procedures or had biological males in their women's locker rooms demonstrated how mistaken they are. Joining me now to discuss this and much more is Congressman Mike Johnson. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee and the House Armed Services Committee. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Louisiana, and he chaired today's hearing. Congressman Johnson, welcome back to the program. Always great to see you.
Hey, Tony. Great to be with you as always.
I wasn't in the committee room, but I watched the committee hearing today. I thought you did a great job shepherding that process. It's always kind of difficult. It's like herding cats. But I want to get your reaction to the hearing today. And I know you know this stuff inside and out, but was there anything that you heard today that even shocked you?
Well, what's shocking is that how our Democrat colleagues try to pretend that this is somehow a service to young children. What we exposed today is really the nightmare, the horror that is happening now increasingly around the country. You have adults who are doing this terrible experiment upon young children. They are surgically modifying their anatomy. It's hard to use language that's appropriate for mixed audiences to describe what they are doing to young children, very often without parental consent. And they are doing long-term untold damage to these children, physically, mentally, spiritually. And we had some very compelling testimony in the committee today to affirm much of that. But the surprising thing, Tony, is how some of my colleagues just deny the reality of this. It's a political issue for them, and it's absolutely staggering that that's the case.
I mean, how do they look at Chloe Cole? I think she's now 18 years old. She started in this process at the age of 13. She has, as I mentioned at the top of the program, since detransitioned. But she told members of Congress today, quote, "Let me be your final warning." I mean, is this something that Congress can ignore?
Yeah, today was Chloe Cole's birthday, 19. She turned 19 today, and she spent it with us. And it was an emotional testimony that she shared because of the horrors that she went through. She felt a little bit tomboyish and a little insecure because she was developing a little faster than some of her classmates, she said, when she was at that young, tender age. And just merely mentioning that to a healthcare provider put her on this fast track to try to change her sex. As she pointed out, that's really a misnomer. You can't change your sex. We're born this way. It's a natural process. You're not assigned a gender at birth, as the left says. You're born male or female. This is how God creates us. And she said it's all just a big smoke and mirrors operation, but it has huge, huge implications for the people involved. And so she has physical, long-lasting effects of this. She's now detransitioned. She's a beautiful young woman, but she says she feels like a monster sometimes because of what they've done to her and her body. And her description of what they've done was just difficult to listen to. But again, you have Democrats in Congress who just want to affirm this. They want to allow these, I call them butchers, these surgeons,
right,
who are doing these terrible things to children, and they pretend as though that's some sort of benefit to society. It's just outrageous.
Well, Ms. Cole has since filed a suit against the medical establishment, the doctors that led her down this path. And I think that's quite interesting that this, I think, is going to open up the medical field for a lot of legal liability. And it's going to be interesting to see if the trial lawyers will go against the left on this, because, I mean, they're kind of all in the same cabal, to go after those who have taken advantage of these young people.
Well, the money may be a great allure there. Follow the money. We made the point in the hearing as well that there's big pharmaceutical companies and others who have a financial interest in using pharmaceuticals off-label, in other words, in ways that the FDA has never approved, to chemically castrate children. I mean, that's quite literally what is happening. They're stalling puberty. They're giving drugs to young boys to make them more feminine, and vice versa for the girls. It's just really sickening to see what is going on. And of course, they're violating the rights of these persons. They're not giving them fully informed consent for these medical procedures. And yes, it is a gross violation of medical standards in most places. It's medical malpractice, and it should be regarded as such. I'm heartened, Tony, that I think 27 states now, including our home state of Louisiana, have passed state-level legislation to prevent this kind of butchery from happening in their jurisdictions. And in our state, as you well know, the Democrat governor vetoed it. And in a historic special session, our legislature came back and overrode that veto. So they're to be applauded for that. And we need much more of that courage around the country.
That's right. I think only the third time in 50 years. So that's a rare occasion. But this is an issue that is driving a lot of people to action because they see, just as you have described here, the atrocities being perpetrated on young children. I want to switch gears. The House Judiciary Committee today, the chairman, Jim Jordan, releasing documents to show that the White House clearly was in collusion with Facebook to silence those who were critical of their COVID overreach policies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is not just Jim Jordan's opinion or mine or members of Congress. We've had a federal court affirm this now as well, this landmark opinion that we've discussed. Out of our home state, Louisiana, the states of Louisiana and Missouri sued the Biden administration a while back because we had a hunch that this was happening. And in the discovery of that case, the federal court issued a 155-page ruling on July 4th, I think symbolically, to point out what the court regards as arguably, this is the court's quote, arguably the most massive attack on free speech in United States history. What the court said is, and the facts show, that the Biden White House, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and other agencies were meeting regularly with the social media platforms and pulling down and censoring, suppressing, silencing speech and free speech protected postings of conservatives who are expressing a viewpoint that the White House disagreed with. It sounds like a dystopian novel or something, but that has happened. It is happening. And now the evidence proves it.
Are we going to be seeing more of this? I mean, yesterday in the Judiciary Committee, I mean, we saw how, in fact, you held the secretary's feet to the fire on this. You're calling him the most dishonest witness you've ever had in the 7 years you've been in Congress. It doesn't seem like they're giving the American people any answers, any information. There's no transparency.
No, they're not. And the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, as you noted, was in our hearing yesterday, and he was evasive. He said things that were demonstrably untrue on the record under oath, and I called him on it. I take no pleasure in doing that, Tony. I don't want to call a cabinet secretary a liar, but I just said, frankly, that is the honest truth. He is the most deceptive witness I've ever seen in any hearing, and he did that for hours on end. He doesn't provide us the information we need to perform our really essential function as oversight in the Congress over his agency. And so he's personally responsible for the open border, for the fentanyl catastrophe that's overtaken the country and killing innocent Americans, for the human trafficking problem across the border, all of it. And he just takes no responsibility at all. These people think they're untouchable. And so we've got to bring accountability one way or the other, and we're working on that every day.
It's like every day brings a new revelation of corruption in this administration. Mike Johnson, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.